Hey guys, Mark from Gunpla Network. Today I'm bringing you my review of the MS-07B-3 Gouf Custom, piloted by Norris Packard in the 08th MS Team anime. Big shout out to Ryan from Rypla Builds. Thanks for sending this kit my way for review. It was fairly good to see this old kit, because I'll show you later in the view. It's currently sitting with my Gundam from that show, and it's a good look. It's an old kit, got some issues, but let's take a look. First up, we'll look at the frame, and it's basically, because it's over 20-year-old master grade, it's very much like the ground type Gundam. You get a frame, but obviously you can see the head, the feet, and the armor. It's missing some parts. You just can't have a whole inner frame at that age, apparently. So what they've done now is they've put in you know what? Those blue pieces for the arm are very much like inner frame, even though they're armor-ish type bits. So overall, you get a few screws. It wasn't too difficult to put together. Yes, it has some detail, more detail than the ground type had, I feel. And yeah, apart from the waist joint there, not too bad. You can see a little pilot figure sitting in. All right, here it is, fully armored up. Now, there are a few nub marks, and you can see on the shoulder, and I'm not sure if you noticed on the inside of the forearms without the armor, there are some seam lines. You will just have to deal with those. There's a couple of nub marks on the back of the skirt there, the legs, pretty much every piece of piping you have to sand, which wasn't a fan of that. And because of the piping, it does look good, but it restricts the skirt movement. So overall, yes, it has some nubs, although it's fairly color accurate. I didn't actually use a sticker on this, which is pretty good. All right, accessories. It's got a lot. Actually, it feels like a lot, not that much, but let's go through it one item at a time. Here is your big pilot figure of Norris Packard. Now, I've done a little bit of glue and stuff there. I'll sand that back later before I paint it. You can see a nub mark on the arm. This is, I guess, looking at my shelf, he comes up just past the Gouf's knee. So I'm not sure what scale it's in, but with the Gouf Custom and with the EZ8, not the ground type Gundam, you actually get the Shiro Amada and the Norris Packard figures, which are really good. So paint them up, and it'll look really good on display. I'm glad they actually included this. Maybe they should do that in the future. Hint, hint, Bandai. All right, here's your kind of little Norris Packard figure. Now, this one stands outside the kit. As you can see from my blue tack holding it down, it doesn't come with a base. So if you want it to stand up anywhere, you'll either have to use blue tack, glue, or a little piece of pla plate like I've done for RG and stuff when they don't come with that. You just grab a little, nail-sized piece of pla plate and glue him down after you paint. This is the 3-barrel 35mm machine gun. So one of the differences is with the Gouf Custom versus the original Gouf, they decided you needed manipulator's hands, so they turned this into a wrist mount machine gun instead of the 5-finger hand machine gun that you had. So that's one thing there. All right, main event. This is the 75mm Gatling gun with Gatling shield. So these are paired up together. I like the design, but it's so goddamn heavy. I found it very hard. Getting that opening shot for you guys with the machine gun being held up, I felt like I was going to have to glue the elbow joint in place. It just could not support the weight. It can hold it fine with the peg in hand. It won't drop it, but holding it up anywhere for a pose, you almost need one of those, like they gave you for the RG-007 swords, like a clear kind of skinny pole to hold things up. Very detailed, very good work by Bandai on it, though. I would actually see in a 2.0 kit, they could keep that particular design. They just need to do the rest of the kit. All right, this is the Heat Sword Type D3, according to the wiki. Now, this is just a huge, big sword. It's meant to be a heat sword, I guess, not unlike the Doms have the heat rod, stuff like that. It'll look really good once painted, otherwise it's in a very grey, and that little tab that you see coming off the grip I think is completely useless. The hands don't hold anything very well, and I did not see a bit to actually lock that in place. I used blue tack. So great weapon, couple of nubs, and if you paint it, it'll be all good. This is the heat wire and mount for the machine gun. So that little collar slips over to mount the 35mm machine gun to. And this wire, I think it used to be a heat wire, but it's actually now like an electrical shock charge that plugs into the little, take the the faux peg, I guess, out of the wrist, plug that in, and then you can flex and bend this wire towards, it's got that little grappling end on it, and it was decided that you could actually shock the pilot. So if we have quickly from the wiki, while sharing essentially the similar appearance as the MS-07B Gouf, the Gouf Custom has better weapons, better mobility, was lighter overall, and thus faster. Unlike the Zaku, which fights well in forests, and the Dom, which fights well on flat plains, the Gouf and Gouf Custom fight best in urban settings. So Norris Packard's Gouf Custom could, and I will argue, if he wasn't concerned about killing Shiro because Aina was in love with him, he probably could have taken out all of the gun tanks and the ground type Gundams before being killed. So that's a little bit of history there for you on the Gouf Custom. Okay, the articulation, and this being much like the ground type, because it's a 21-year-old kit now or whatever, will suffer a little. So there on the nose, inside you get a piece of clear. There you got the orange clear on the front, and you got on both weapons, you got a couple of orange clear pieces. The head, yes, will turn around, but will separate easily. I'd say if you're painting, maybe a couple of drops of cement, liquid thin cement in there to lock it in place once you're done. The head doesn't really have much up and down, so the arms will spin full all the way around, no issue. That horrible seam line I need to fix when I paint on the edge of this thing. It's got a little bit of movement on the shoulders, but that's just a poly cap in there on a ball joint, so don't expect too much. The arm will go up, not quite parallel, and like this thing's going to fall apart if you tug on it too much. It gets a good bend in the arm, but there you go, comes straight off if you try and bend it too far, and it's just held in by, you know, a poly cap and a peg. So there's your bend, there's that little faux peg I said, hiding kind of like that's meant to be where the cable shoots out of, and then you attach the cable. The waist joint has 3/10 of nothing for movement, it's pretty bad. Backpack, piping, it's all linked, hence the kind of limited movement on the side and basically nothing on the front or back skirts. So yeah, not great. You won't be getting any like diving poses on this thing. It is ball joint, hip as well, very old master grade style. The knee, actually not too bad, can flex all the way back, but with that front skirt, he ain't going too far up. The leg foot movement, not too bad. The foot doesn't bend in half, unfortunately, very old. But it does split down with that poly cap and kind of all the joints inside the foot there. Not too badly articulated if you want to, you know, kind of make him diving forward or diving through the air. That's kind of one of those, doesn't come with a action base for air shots, so you'd have to put one of those claws that you get from the action base 4.5. Not bad considering its age. Okay, here it is, fully loaded up with everything, and yeah, look, it can stand, it's fine. I was kind of shaking this around and, you know, doing some stuff with it beforehand, and then I put it down and it stood. No issues. I guess, like I said, the big issue is if you want to hold up everything that's on that left arm, the left arm is not gonna like that very well. In fact, resting the Gatling gun on the ground is probably the best way to have this pose. That way there's no stress on the arms. If you paint, which I will in the near future hopefully, would tighten up some of those joints. Here it is, if we take the shield off, get the sword out, get that 35mm machine gun on the hand up. I do like this kit, but they have done a Gouf 2.0, right? So I think if they took the 2.0 Gouf in here and then just took the shield and Gatling and sword off of this kit, and the machine gun thing up there is not too bad either. So, and maybe just kind of, you know, fiddle with some, you know, here and there, make it a bit better, use the 2.0 frame, and hey, we'd have a 2.0 Gouf Custom. Here it is spinning around with the RE100 Zaku 2FZ from The War in the Pocket. And as you can see, like, look, sitting on my shelf right now, this thing looks fine beside the RE100 because the RE100 is the basic. Even though this was a really good RE100 I reviewed, it's kind of simple because it's basically like a huge high grade. And that's how I kind of feel the Gouf Custom is. It's pretty simple for a master grade. Needs some work. But it'll still look good on your shelf if you don't put in too much effort, apart from maybe grab a panel line marker and I don't know about the dry transfers, but yeah. See what happens. I'm hoping for a 2.0. It'd be really good, like the ground type and the Easy 8. Like the 08 theme is so popular. I don't believe they haven't done some 2.0 stuff like GM Command Space type as well. And what we wanted to see next, here it is with the ground type. Now, the ground type was kind of in a pose in my cabinet, so let's just slide him forward like he's advancing on the Gouf. And at this point, the Gouf would come to life and basically, Gatling gun this thing to the face. Aided by the backpack, which is way too heavy. Now, for all that I've said about its negatives, it is color accurate, weapon accurate. I mean, look, the colors on the sword obviously not accurate. You got that little electrical wire that it shoots out, apart from some seam lines, which you can easily fix up and sand back, and you wouldn't even notice if you sand them properly, like back to the kind of 4000 grit, you'd get it smooth again.
Yep.
Otherwise, yeah, I think it's an okay kit. I'm glad that they did it, but it definitely needs a 2.0. So, all right, guys, that brings me to the end of the review. Big thanks to Gunpla Builds in Sydney for sending this out. Check out the link in the description below. I think he still has them, so if you need one, he does. He could ship overseas, I guess, if you really want one. You'd have to email him for a quote or Facebook message. And that's it for me. If you've built this kit, I've seen a couple around recently since I've done this review, actually. So, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Obviously, everyone's going to say 2.0 with me. And that's it. Keep building, guys.